The theories I present today, I'd take them with a grain of salt. Twin Peaks Armageddon.
Hey, I'm G, and this is the G-Spot.
One of the more trivial reasons that brought me to this Armageddon is Dr. Jacoby. In the first episode, the first scene that we get in the real world is with Dr. Jacoby. Not a major character at all, but yet the first real world scene we get from Twin Peaks is Dr. Jacoby and his shovels. Now, to me, this is really significant. So, I have been wondering what Jacoby is up to with those shovels ever since I saw that. We eventually get an explanation that he is selling the shovels so that people can shovel the shit out of their lives and bring in happiness. I don't think this is Jacoby's true intentions. I believe that Dr. Jacoby is supplying the townspeople of Twin Peaks and maybe the surrounding areas even with a weapon. I think these golden shovels are weapons to fight evil. And the reason why I think they're going to be able to fight evil with golden shovels is because the base camp for evil in Twin Peaks is a hole in the ground. Black Lodge is represented by some sycamore trees and a hole in the ground. Now, when Cooper does go into the Black Lodge, we see him walk more into the trees and a curtain kind of appears and he disappears into the curtain. And I do realize that, but still, Black Lodge is represented by some kind of hole in the ground in the woods in Twin Peaks. Now, Dr. Jacoby in general doesn't seem like a guy that would take on this initiative. Dr. Jacoby wasn't really a hero type figure. So it wouldn't shock me if after 25 years of time that there was a shift in Jacoby. And this is his way of contributing by arming the people of Twin Peaks with their weapons for Armageddon, which are golden shovels. There's two times that we've heard about Doppelganger Cooper from the past. We hear about one of these from Dr. Hayward when he's talking to Frank. Dr. Hayward tells Frank how he brought Doppelganger Cooper into the hospital to give him a checkup, and then later on, he saw Doppelganger Cooper sneaking out of urgent care. Dr. Hayward's belief was that he was visiting Audrey Horne. She was in a coma at the time. Another point in Doppelganger Cooper's history that's very interesting is the last time he met with Diane. It was obviously an extremely emotional meeting for Diane, and she has fear in her when she's dealing with Doppelganger Cooper. Leads me to believe there was some kind of assault or threat when these two met. So these two meetings with these two women, what I believe happened in both these meetings is conception. I think that Doppelganger Cooper produced some heirs, an army, people to help him during this fight of Armageddon, which would mean that Richard Horne is Audrey and Doppelganger Cooper's son. As far as Diane goes, when we first meet Diane, there's a young man in her apartment. In the credits, he's identified as a young man. This young man and Diane don't really act like mother and son. However, they do act the way I would imagine Diane would act towards her son. Very cool and kind of removed from her son, taking care of him, but, not really too emotional. So right now, it looks like Doppel is a daddy. Daddy Doppel is what I like to call him. So what is this ultimate force of evil that is coming to start this Armageddon? Wouldn't it be Bob who's in Doppelganger Cooper? Well, no. What we learned in episode 8 is that Bob is not the ultimate force of evil. Everything we're seeing has all been about the experiment. Just as we saw the woodsman come and prepare the convenience store for the coming of Bob, what we are also seeing is Bob has come to us to prepare for the coming of the experiment. Everything comes down to the experiment. Bob came out of the experiment. And the other thing that came out of the experiment was that egg that eventually hatched the alien-like thing that crawled into the young girl in 1956. And again, here we have preparation for the eventual coming of the experiment. So what type of preparation needed to be done to prepare the world for this experiment? Well, first I would have to say that feeding on human suffering and misery had to happen. This is a huge part of what the Black Lodge does. It has to be wrapped up in there somehow. Perhaps this pain and suffering from human beings is empowering this whole source of evil so it can become powerful enough to pull this Armageddon off. But there's more preparation that needed to be done for the experiment. Most of this preparation was in all likelihood completed by Who is Judy Housemen? Well, Agent Philip Jeffries' name has been brought up several times in this 3rd season, but we've never seen him. One of the first things he says is, I am not gonna talk about Judy. And he actually reinstates this again, maybe in a little bit different language, but he's pretty insistent about not talking about Judy. And then he goes on, he gives some information about the Black Lodge, like he saw the places where they have the meetings above the convenience store, and he says that Judy told him about these things he knows concerning the Black Lodge. So Judy was a significant character to Agent Jeffries, and Agent Jeffries was also somehow mixed up in the Black Lodge, more than any other agent that we know of. And the reason why I say he was so mixed up in it is because at one point we see Agent Jeffries transported through midair from one country to another, like he was a Black Lodge member. But he's very surprised when this happens to him. He's not manipulating their power. Their power is manipulating Jeffries. This is all we really get about this, but we can take from it. Jeffries is seriously involved either in investigating or becoming part of the Black Lodge in Fire Walk With Me, and that his connection to this Black Lodge information or involvement is someone named Judy. The young girl in episode 8 is in all likelihood Judy Housemen. So where did this name Housemen come from? In season 3, episode 1, after a scene with the glass box, we cut to the Great Northern, and Ben is there. He talks to Beverly about Miss Housemen and her friends from New York City. All we know about the glass box is that it's owned by an anonymous billionaire, and it's in New York City. Miss Housemen is the only character we have to connect to this mysterious New York City billionaire. And so Judy Housemen, as a young girl, is taken over by a parasite. This parasite's mission is to make preparations so that the experiment can come into our world and unleash Armageddon on us. Judy grows up, becomes involved with the Black Lodge and Agent Philip Jeffries, and creates the glass box that the experiment needs to enter our world. Now, how do we know that the experiment needs this glass box to enter our world? Well, 1, we saw the experiment appear in the black box. 2, in episode 8, when we go from the convenience store to the experiment, we go through a sort of portal, and this portal looks just like the portal on the glass box. This is the window, the doorway to the experiment, and it's the doorway for the experiment to get to Earth. But how is it going to come down to Laura and Bob if Laura's dead? Well, is Laura dead? Sort of. They tiptoe around this all the time in the Black Lodge when we see Laura in the Black Lodge. And she never says, yes, I'm Laura Palmer. Now, after episode 8, we get a nice explanation for what they mean by all that. Laura Palmer is not a person. Laura Palmer is a spirit or a power. Power of good meant to combat this power of evil. Now, we identify Laura Palmer as person that we know of Laura Palmer because that's how she was introduced to us. But she's more than that. She is a force of good, and she's not limited to human life like we are. She's much like Bob, where she can move from one body to the next. And Laura Palmer, the spirit, will move from one body to the next for as long as Bob does. So in other words, until she completes her mission of destroying Bob, Laura Palmer will be on Earth. It just might be in different bodies. Now that's interesting, but if that were the case, there would need to be this new Laura Palmer on Earth right now. I can't help but to think that this young, beautiful, blonde girl with a coke problem is the new Laura Palmer. I mean, at first I didn't think that. I just thought, okay, similar or whatever. But now seeing that Laura is more than a person, that she is this spirit of goodness, yeah, Becky is the new Laura Palmer. And Becky is going to have to confront Bob in this battle of Armageddon. So that's it. That's my guess. And guess is a great word to describe that. Much better than theory, actually, on what's going on in Twin Peaks. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please go ahead and check out my Twin Peaks Unraveled playlist. I've done a video on every episode so far, and if you're ever wondering, do I really know what I'm talking about, you could see that after parts 1 and 2, I called that the dead body in Ruth Davenport's bed was Major Garland Briggs. So I'm not too bad at putting this stuff together. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great day.